Guests to take this discussion forward. We have lawyer Abha Singh, we have women's rights activist Yogita Bhayana, and from the Congress we have Mahima Singh. Good to have all of you on the broadcast with us. Abha Singh, I want to begin with you first as far as the legality of the questions that were raised and as far as the case is concerned. One of the questions that was raised by Justice Rastogi was the question, is under Gujarat rules, are these convicts entitled for remission or not? So I first want to understand, is there a past precedent for cases like these?
You know, this remission policy 1992 was prevalent at the time of conviction, and Supreme Court has followed its judgment that was in state of Haryana versus Jagdish, where it was held that the policy applicable at the time of conviction must be considered for deciding an application for premature release. So not only that, Supreme Court again in Kehar Singh versus Union of India 1989, it clearly said that remission should be given because it should not be, end of the day, it should not be a black hole, and it talked of principles of reformation. Also in state of Haryana versus Mahendra Singh, that was a 2007 case where the Supreme Court talked of fundamental rights of the prisoners also. And so there have been cases where remission have been given, be it for 15th August or 26th January. But the issue here is that the technicality on which they gave was, they said the 1992 policy was effective. But after Nirbhaya 2013, when the new policy came, we said for heinous offences, for issues like rape and death, remission should not be given. Now, what does law say? Rule of law says justice should not only be happening, but it should look to be happening.
True.
Here, this is an heinous offence where the woman was raped, her little child murdered. So, can you give remission in such a case? That is the issue. But when the court, as you say, but the court also came and said, day in and out, remission is granted to convicts of life sentence. What is the exception? So court will have to see now, the Supreme Court bench will see whether this remission is within the parameters of law and whether what is the exception. But my question is that in such a heinous offense, when you talk of women's safety, when you talk of women empowerment, is it justified? Because even the judge who gave the sentence, he was not consulted. When the law says, when the CRPC says that the judge has to be looked into, his views have to be taken, the merits of the case have to be seen. So how can you give this message to the society that a rapist, a murderer is given remission, and that too on 26th January, on 15th August? This is what we, the freedom fighters, fought for. I think the message gone has wrong, and the court has to not just see whether the 1992 policy, he could have got remission. You have to go beyond that. There is something called justice, which has to be looked into.
True. I will talk to you about the 1992 policy and the larger messaging that has been sent out. But I quickly also want to understand, if you heard my conversation that I was having with Shobha Gupta, Bilkis Bano's lawyer, she is saying neither her or the client have even seen a copy as far as the remission is concerned. Is this usually the protocol?
See, of course, the person, the victim, should have been the first person to have got it. In fact, if it was done in the right manner, the people who were on the committee, they should have met the victim, taken her viewpoint. Is she feeling safe? Again and again, she's saying she's not safe.
True.
And yes, she should have got it because ultimately it is her life at stake. It is her safety at stake. But nobody has seen the remission order because what we are told and what we see from the sources, that there were the committee members who were there, would talk about it. So I think that is why they've not given out. But yes, the victim has a right to know and she should have been consulted.
Absolutely. Yogita, I want to bring you in. I know you've been fighting for many cases and causes like these. When we hear from the legal team of Bilkis Bano, and it breaks your heart to hear this, that she had just begun to live her life without a sense of fear, and then something like this comes in, it takes her 20 years back. Aren't we then taking 2 steps forward but 20 steps backward?
I think not 20 steps back. I think we have taken 2,000 steps back. With this kind of a judgment, I mean, with this kind of a bizarre kind of action of releasing them and also celebrating their release is like bloat. It's a complete bloat on justice system. I fail to understand, because we fought Nirbhaya. For Nirbhaya, when we went for review petition or appeal to expedite, the case in Supreme Court, which was pending for 4 years, it took us sweat and blood with the mother, to get it to the hearing level in Supreme Court. And in this particular case, within few months, the remission petition has been sanctioned.
Yeah.
Where do you see this, in the world? And not only this Nirbhaya case, there is another Nirbhaya from Uttarakhand where I'm taking up very, very, aggressively. We've been writing to Supreme Court to take this up. So I feel hurt. And to be honest, I'm glad on one fact that irrespective of political support, parties, irrespective of religion, I am poured in with calls from across India, across globe to support Bilkis Bano. That's the light of the day I see. Otherwise, judicial system, I don't know the procedure. I'm not a lawyer.
True.
I depend on the wisdom of other like Abhaji and all. But I fail to understand. No matter what kind of a legal system we have, this is not done. They have to recall it or whatever. They have to take this back. Otherwise, you will see protests coming very soon, because I am telling you, this is a very, very dark spot in our entire history. This case should not have seen this kind of a day.
Yeah, because the larger message that is being sent out, at least optically, for people who want to indulge themselves in these heinous crimes is that even if you get convicted, the law will possibly support you for you to be able to come out and then have a hero's welcome. Mahima Singh, I want to bring you in, and I actually agree with what Yogita is saying, that at least it's good to see, political parties keeping their differences aside. But what is the responsibility of state governments in cases like these?
We must come to that and we must talk about that. But before that, a very relevant question that I ask all my debates, Ridhima, is that where are the BJP spokespersons? Is it not more relevant than ever for them to be on these panels now than ever to answer the very relevant questions that the public is asking them? Because on the very day that these convicts were remitted, we heard the Prime Minister talk very high of the respect for women and how the conduct towards women should be, and against the misogyny. That's a contrast, that's a paradox. However, I'll come back to your question, because yes, the state government has a very pertinent responsibility in such cases. But when we hear from the apex court, when we hear that merely a horrific crime, it is a very sorry state of affairs, Ridhima. I'll have to say that. Although we have heard the CJI retort it in strong words, we have we have the women of the world coming together. We have the citizens of this country coming together against what has happened with Bilkis. But the government of Gujarat has acted with utmost irresponsibility in not handing over the remission notice, the remission order. To the either of the advocates. I was listening to a debate yesterday where there were advocates of the convicts and Shobha Gupta herself was a part of that panel. And I could see the helplessness of the advocate for the convicts, because he did not have the order and yet he was sitting there to defend it. And what to do, because the BJP spokespersons are not there. And why are not there? Let me answer that as well. Because, these 11 convicts, Ridhima, it is shameful that were the members of the BJP on the day they committed that crime. And it is no wonder that the Gujarat elections are around the corner when they have been remitted of their punishment.
Okay. The reason